It's the Security Weekly News, and it is episode 438. Welcome to the week of 15 December 2024. Get ready for the holiday season, a time of wonder and magic filled with phishing scams, drunken brawls in the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot, and your great Aunt Ida asking whether you might come by and try to fix her gateway computer that just doesn't connect to AOL anymore. We've got Vogons, task scams, HiatusRat, Cellebrite, Deloitte, Quantum, WordPress, Aaran Leyland, and more on the Security Weekly News.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News. ThreatLocker implements a least privileged approach to cybersecurity, blocking every executable unless specifically authorized by your team. This methodology mitigates ransomware, supply chain attacks, zero-day exploits, and ensures 24/7, 365.25 protection for your organization. To learn more about how ThreatLocker can help prevent known and unknown threats in your digital environment, safeguard your data and operations from threat actors, and align your organization with respected compliance frameworks, visit securityweekly.com/ThreatLocker. If your organization is ready to enhance cyber resilience, we have important insights for you. The Level Blue Futures Report 2024 sheds light on how rapid computing changes affect IT visibility. Our research reveals that while IT leaders see positive outcomes, 85% acknowledge increased risk. In this report, we identify the barriers to cyber resilience, the challenges impacting cybersecurity, and the business context that reveal operational issues. You'll also discover what's on the horizon and 5 essential steps for prioritizing cyber resilience. Get your complimentary copy of this crucial research today. Visit securityweekly.com/levelblue. Cybersecurity simplified. All right, we're back, and it's the Security Weekly News. I'm Doug White, and welcome to the show. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and leave a comment on your favorite platform, because if you don't, all you're getting for Christmas is a bunch of socks. Not really good ones either. Those really tight ones that come all the way up to your knees and have multicolored rings on them. Yeah, those things. Yeah. Oh, and a box of Whorehound candy. You know how you can tell somebody grew up in the Depression? It's what they like to eat. My dad loved Whorehound candy. I don't even know what that stuff is, but they always had it out. It's like the color of pollution, and it tastes a lot like what I presume the River Thames tasted like in about 1505. You don't believe me? Go get some and try it, or you'll love it, and you'll become one of those families. Yeah. All right. Well, please warn your people about this one. The FTC, the Federal Trade Commission in the United States, issued a warning about a significant rise in online task scams. I get those all the time, and you probably do too. I got one yesterday. I get about 2 a week of these things. You know, make $1,200 a day in your spare time, working from your home on your own hours. Make as much or as little as you like. You'll be rich, I tells you. Now, in 2020, the FTC said they had 0 reports of this type of scam. But last year, they documented 5,000 cases. This year, they said they had already reported over 20,000 cases in the first half of 2024. The reported losses from scams like this, they said, tripled between 2020 and 2023 and exceeded 220 million for all job scams and 41 million for task scams specifically. Now, this article said that this was a new kind of scam, but it's really not. I mean, these scams have been around since they were doing it with postcards and telephone calls, but it's new on the internet. So, I mean, if you think it's not relevant to you, well, guess what happens when somebody loses, one of your employees loses all their life savings at the track? Put it in that context. Now, we used to monitor people for this kind of stuff, right? I actually wrote code that monitored people's bank accounts for, changes in their average balances. And if your balance suddenly, normally was $3.75 and it suddenly was negative, or you had a bunch of overdrafts, that kind of thing. And if your employees are getting in jams like this, they may be more likely to be subject to spying, phishing, stealing, all kinds of stuff. And the same thing applies to these kind of task scams. I mean, it's just an adaptation of an old scam to the modern age. You basically get a contact telling you that if you can perform some simple task every day, you will earn money. What's not to like, right? They're easy. Review videos, write reviews, open boxes and remail them. All these this used to be called a Russian box scam of a sort. But the scams often have very legitimate sounding companies associated with them, like Deloitte, which has been coming up a lot, Amazon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, as the employer. And I mean, how hard is it to put that name on the top of an app? The tasks have an app associated with them. So it tracks your activity, and you get a set of usually 40 items that if you complete all 40 of these tasks, you will get commissions in your little app. And it'll show you on the app, like in the article, they have pictures of it showing you how much money you've earned to date. And that goes into your account. And they will even pay you, apparently, in Ethereum or some other cryptocurrency. Now, at some point, though, after you've been grinding for a bit and maybe you've completed a block or two and you have a balance in your account, you say, you know what, I'm going to cash out. I'm going to get my money and go on a bender or whatever. Well, then it asks you to deposit some money to validate your account. This is one version of it. And then it also says if you'd like to move to a higher tier, you're now eligible to be a better earner because you've proven yourself. So deposit $50 or something. And then they're going to give you new tasks. But, you want the next tier, you have to pay to get them. And some of the tasks involve money. So you have to deposit money. Right. So one old rule, remember, the minute they ask for money, it's a scam, almost always. It's a scam, but you might want to issue warnings to your employees because, you may have employees that are saying, hey, I'd like to make some extra money. And if they get sucked into this stuff and they lose, people reporting they were losing, it's not a huge scam. They were losing $8,000, $10,000. But, for some people, that's a lot. For me, that's a lot of money. Maybe for you, it's not. But for me, it's a lot. And I would hate to lose $8,000 to some scammer. So, and then I might turn on you, and start selling your info. Yeah, exactly. Well, the FBI warned that HiatusRat is now scanning for vulnerable webcams and DVRs that are exposed online. I've said it so many times, but I'll say it again. Don't expose these things. Put them on private VLANs. Do it now. VLAN 69 is popular. Or use a Fibonacci number. Just don't use VLAN 1. Or I don't like people to use 99 either. But the attacks have been specifically focused on Chinese branded devices that are either at end of life or they need patches, which of course means what? Everything. Well, HiatusRat ran a campaign back in March, and they scanned a lot of IoT devices in the US, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the UK, according to the FBI. They were looking for a specific collection of exploits or default vendor passwords on certain devices. This group usually targets Hikvision and Xiangmai devices with telnet access using Ingram, which is an open source web scanning tool that you may well be using yourself, or Medusa, which is an open source brute forcing tool, which you also may well have. Now, look, just one other thing to mention: you don't allow port 23 TCP, right? I mean, please tell me that you don't ever allow inbound port 23 TCP for any reason, even on private VLANs. I mean, you'd tell me if you've been hitting the telnet pipe, right? I mean, right? You would, right? Well, anyway, Lumen, who first found the HiatusRat malware, said that it is typically used to deploy payloads on infected devices, and then that converts them into SOC 5 proxies, which can be used for command and control server communication. So if they can take a camera that's in your office, convert it to a proxy server for command and control, that means when other infected things in your office are communicating with command and control, they're actually communicating to a device that's in your network, right? You need a scan for those things. I mean, if old Gil put a webcam on his desktop down in the Cube Farm for a lark, and that thing's connected back to who knows where, your whole Wolf of Wall Street themed office party may get streamed out on Chinese YouTube or actual YouTube or Twitch or something. I mean, seriously, if you got IoT stuff and you got employees bringing IoT stuff in, I don't even know how many times we saw that, and that was way back when. Somebody's just got a toy that they put up, that gets triggered by something. Yeah, exactly. Google and Amnesty International exposed a new piece of surveillance malware. And I had a few problems with this story in general. Amnesty International said that a journalist in Serbia gave them a previously unknown piece of malware that appeared to be mobile surveillance malware, a la Pegasus or some of that kind of stuff. and that this was being used by the police to spy on the journalist. The investigation found that Cellebrite was used to unlock the device. Now, if you don't know, Cellebrite is a really popular and really common tool that's used by police agencies and others everywhere to do mobile device forensics. I mean, I have multiple Cellebrites sitting in the next room. Cellebrite says, their statement and official position is they carefully screen and manage which groups use their products, but critics allege that the tools end up being sold to oppressive governments that use the software to spy on critics, journalists, and political opponents. I mean, come on. I bought a Cellebrite. I'm not an oppressive government, but I'm also not a police agency, nor do I have any affiliation with a police agency. And I work for a university. God only knows what I might be doing with my Cellebrite at this point. And truthfully, Cellebrite only is used to break the phone. So now, despite the tone of the article, which seemed to be putting a lot of blame on Cellebrite, which I didn't really agree with, we all know that any tool can be misused, whether it's a Flipper Zero or anything else. And Cellebrite's not any different from that. It's a tool. I can chip some ice off the block, or I can stick the ice pick in my Uncle Lenny's ear because he said Python was better than C. I mean, and I know that's the old, guns thing, but I mean, the reality is that Cellebrite is not a hacking tool. It will break phones sometimes. But in this case, they installed a tool that they're calling NoviSpy. They had very little details on what it does, except that it gathers data. So basically, the Cellebrite was a Slim Jim in this model. I mean, I have a Slim Jim too, and we used to use that when my girlfriend's sister locked her keys in a Volkswagen every other day. So the Cellebrite's just an innocent victim in all this, and I don't work for Cellebrite, and they don't give me any money, but maybe they should. But NoviSpy was able to monitor a lot of the phone's basic functions. So this is basically that Pegasus kind of stuff again. Where is this person? Maybe it's uploading their texts or whatever. So if you want to criticize Dear Leader, you might want to be pretty careful about that because this is out there. But all the Cellebrite did was break the phone. They didn't say how, the Serbian police got the phone, because you'd actually physically have to have the phone, as far as I can tell. So I don't know, did the journalists get arrested? And then when they got their stuff back from evidence control or whatever they have in Serbia, this was on it. But this is happening, and it could happen wherever you are. The story doesn't have a lot of details, but if you're worried, maybe use burner phones and don't use them repeatedly, or maybe don't use phones at all if you think people are tracking it, because they can track your phone. I got news for you. They can track burner phones too. The number 4 spot on this list has been Deloitte for a while. I think we've had a Deloitte story here every week, and here they are again. I couldn't resist the story, and I even got quoted in the Boston Globe yesterday about it. So Deloitte provides a product called Rhode Island, or RI Bridges, for the state of Rhode Island. Well, this product got taken out by BrainCipher last week, and they are a ransomware gang. They use Lockbit 3.0 derivatives, which could just mean they're a software as a service group or whatever. But the governor of Rhode Island had to go on television and say that, well, we're really sorry, but we lost all your credentials, your social security numbers, your credit cards, your hat sizes, your inseam measurement, and all the names of all your relatives who work for the state, all compromised. The ghost of Buddy Chancey is going to haunt the governor now, or maybe have him whacked. Mob guys all over Federal Hill said, no, sir. Sorry, that's a little Rhode Island joke tossed in there, and none of you will probably get it because Rhode Island is the smallest state. But regardless, for you Rhode Islanders out there, you know what I mean. Anyway, Deloitte is now finding out why State Farm doesn't do business in Rhode Island. We have more lawyers per square meter than any other state. You know those billboards on I-95 that say things like Feliz Navidad? That's a real one. Or was your DUI caused by you or by firewall advertising? We can help. In pain, call Wayne. Negligent. I stole some of those from John Mulaney, but they're actually all pretty much real. But anyway, less than 72 hours after the attack was announced, and it was on the state health and benefit programs in this RI Bridges, civil complaints in the form of class action lawsuits were filed in U.S. District Court in Rhode Island, as well as in New York, where Deloitte is headquartered. I mean, you got to be the first to file if you want to represent. So for all of you, rest assured, at some point you will get breached. So remind yourself and your organization and your friends and your family, don't reuse passwords, don't give out PIN numbers or reuse PIN numbers, don't click the link, use multi-factor, and just basically assume that everything's going to eventually get breached. Yeah. More than 390,000 credentials to WordPress sites, speaking of breaches. were compromised in a year-long supply chain attack that used a phishing campaign that went after academic researchers and a lot of GitHub repositories that mostly had fake proof of concepts and or other wares type stuff. Datadog Security Labs said that the methods were used to deliver a sophisticated second stage payload, which could drop crypto miners and stealers on the systems. They call this group MUT 1224, which stands apparently for Mysterious Unattributed Threat. Wow, the Vulcans take over naming threats now. I mean, like, this is MUT 1224, Captain. I mean, I would have called it Prickly Heat or something like that, but that's just me. I'm willing to name any threat. If you need a threat name, please call me. But the warning said that many of the victims are still being exploited using SSH private keys and AWS keys that they took off your account after you were phished. So you may not even know this is going on. They said this is still happening, that they sort of held onto these credentials and they're now using them as they want to. And the calls coming from inside the house. And there, I finally worked it in this year, my reference to Black Christmas, which is the first place I ever heard the call is coming from inside the house. But a lot of the repos that were listed were in legitimate Intel feeds, and they offered proof of concepts. They offered malware samples, all kinds of stuff. And they were obviously targeting the security industry, red teams, et cetera. I mean, not that many milk delivery people are probably interested in a buffer underrun in Python that causes a farting noise in the internal speakers. I miss those little 4-centimeter speakers. Remember those little things that used to be on the motherboard? Oh, they were so much fun to abuse. You could make them make funny noises. They didn't have a lot of range, but you could make make the system sound funny. Anyway, other things they were using here were like code dependencies. It had like the usual typo squatting stuff, which would result in, of course, a supply chain threat. Since if you accidentally include nummy instead of numpy, would you actually notice if you can still generate a random Poisson distribution number? Maybe not. And then you've got this piece of malware embedded in who knows how much stuff. Be careful out there. You are not immune. I'm telling you right now. In fact, you may be less immune than the milk delivery person who wasn't actually looking for that proof of concept for the naughty monkey exploit at 3 o'clock this morning. You know who you are. Well, Australia's main cyber agency has now advocated that local orgs in Australia should stop using certain crypto due to the quantum advances that could cause those algorithms to be cracked, fast. Now, this is nothing new. But the Australian Signals Directorate, or ASD, issued guidance about high-assurance cryptographic equipment, which I presume means things that are very sensitive. So this is, the secret document communication channel. Think encrypted fax machine. And they will disallow, and by disallow, they mean stop, the use of SHA-256, RSA, ECDSA, and ECDH, along with a whole list of other common algorithms that everybody uses today. And I'm not really criticizing them for this. I think all the criticism that said this is pretty bold because those algorithms are embedded in so much stuff currently, which doesn't mean you shouldn't get rid of it, right? I mean, otherwise we'd still be using Telnet, Cisco. It's like, why is this still even a thing? But it is, and there's apps that use it and so forth. So everybody's been worrying about quantum crypto cracking. Yes, I practice saying that. I'm a sheet slitter. I slit sheets. I'm the slickest sheet slitter that ever slit sheets. NIST said that quantum computing is a plausible threat to encryption. And they had issued a call to develop quantum-resistant crypto all the way back in 2016 and then approved. These are the three that they passed their whatever standard, MLKEM, MLDSA, and SLHDSA. These are all quantum encryption algorithms that should resist quantum cracking. So at least so far, we know how encryption works, right? It's like we release something, everybody says this is the solution to all our problems, and 6 weeks later, some 12-year-old kid in New Jersey breaks it with a Raspberry Pi. Yeah, and I'm sure there'll be some, new derivative of Raspberry Pi that'll be quantum at some point, maybe 10 years out, where you can, for $24.95, you could buy a BlackBerry Pi, and it cracks quantum. It's a quantum computer on a card. Yeah, that kind of, can you imagine? But I mean, think about this in 1985, where we were. There is draft guidance from NIST if you need it, and it is called the Transition to Post-Quantum Crypto Standards, and it is open for public comment. So if you have comments, you might want to jump in there and say something. They did say that in the United States, they would deprecate a lot of these standards by 2030, but would disallow them by 2035. So, I mean, this is obviously a big deal, and it may represent a sea change in encryption, but we've been through this before. I mean, I would rather see sensitive channels being used by people that can order nuclear attack subs around to be heavily encrypted than not, even if it's painful to transition in the short run. So it's coming. And maybe it's time for you to start thinking about replacing all those old fax machines with new ones that use quantum-resistant systems before AI is breaking all your faxes and old Gil is faxing the launch codes on a dial-up modem from that office in Topeka that we forgot all about, because stuff like that happens. Well, everybody hates Twitter now, if you didn't already. First, the name was changed to X, which made it stupid. And, that was one of those incredibly narcissistic things, in my opinion, that just like, let's make them all say X now. Now change it to something else. Let's call it Kai. Let's call it Bob. Now you have to say Bob. Ha, 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 ha. And then they said, okay, Nazis, they're not so bad. We can allow that. It's freedom, right? And then a lot of it, is it really racist kind of stuff? So a lot of people started flocking to Blue Sky recently. So I'm going to tell you, and this article was about this, social media is a subway platform, folks. On the platform, there's a guy standing there in a $3,000 suit with a $10,000 Richard Mille watch and a briefcase covered in the hide of an exotic endangered animal that costs $50,000. Next to that, there's a guy who just dropped his pants and pooped on the ground, along with that lady that's always singing those Grateful Dead songs off key and might have scabies. And I'm standing there with a book called Advanced C Algorithms in the belief that thugs won't likely attack a C programmer. In worst case, I can throw it at them and they'll be so entranced with all those algorithms I can escape. Also appearing, a mother with 2 children on their way uptown to see a doctor about ringworm, a man with a mysterious burlap bag that keeps moving strangely, and a guy dressed as John Waters, or maybe it actually is John Waters, and so on, and so on, and so on. That's what social media is. It's the world's biggest subway platform. This article talks about how all these platforms appear. A lot of people go over there going, this is the brave new world. And then they turn toxic because humans get involved. I mean, people are toxic. And the subway platform and social media are reflections of that toxicity. Why is it so racist, you wail? Because people are horrible. I think we have to learn, to be what good New Yorkers do, ignore it. That crazy guy that's standing over there holding a banana ranting about, I don't know, people from somewhere. You just walk on by. It sucks and the person's awful or maybe deranged, but they're there. I'm not telling you to tolerate racists and misogynists at work. I don't. I call them out and get in trouble for it too sometimes. But you ignore the trolls and you ignore that guy pooping over there by the newsstand. You just move on. It's a good thing to look away from. And it is going to be just our life in social media, and that's the life in the virtual big city. And speaking of people who pooped on the subway, it's Aaran Leyland. Hi, Aaron.
Hey, Doug, how's it going? I currently have my dog, like a Bond villain cat, on my knee. So at any moment, I expect him to, bite me in the face or something. He's like, what are you doing? Why are you not paying me attention?
That'll be our highest rated episode of ever. Will be Aaron gets his face sucked off by a dog on camera.
Missing whole nose. I would let the show go out as well.
Will be a viral meme at that point.
I would be happy for the show to go out, so production staff, get ready.
Just before we're canceled.
Okay, 'tis the season to be scammed. So many scam articles, and Deloitte, really, but lots of scam articles. So this article is from Hacker News, which is, to be honest, one of my go-to favorite sort of news shows. Great work over there. The article's in the show notes, and it's titled "New Investment Scam Leverages AI Social Media Ads to Target Victims Worldwide." And they don't do that much clickbait, which is good in this world, right? Who hates clickbait? Anyway, so it states that the recent surge in investment scams, ledgering social media, malvertising, company-branded posts, and AI-powered video testimonials. And obviously, this is a significant concern. So these scams, and one that they talk about is tracked by ESET under the name of Nomani. They say ridiculous. They say it's growing exponentially with over 355% increase between the first and second halves of 2024. I'm not sure who's monitoring that, but it's big anyway. Shock numbers there. Okay, so they state the primary goal of these fraudsters is to lead victims to phishing websites and forums that harvest their personal information. Be careful to where you put your things, right? Ultimately leading, of course, to financial loss and data loss. So in previous roles, I've totally had firsthand experience of this, but actually in a more complex way. But I'll cover that as we go through. So there's some key points in the article. So they say the use of social engineering techniques to build trust with victims is a critical aspect of these scams. Fraudsters often outmaneuver even the authorization mechanisms and verification calls used by banks to prevent fraud. So this, in personal experience, has been the social engineering, as one would expect, a very person-to-person affair with all methods of social engineering used to lure the victims. So they say that the incorporation, this is what everybody's talking about, isn't it? It's like, oh, look, Aaron looks like he's, I don't have anything appropriate to say in my head. I'm lying with an octopus. Well, why would I lie with an octopus? But if the AI shows it, it must be true, right? So to create video testimonials featuring famous personalities, so not me or Doug and an octopus, adding a layer of credibility to the scams, making them more convincing to potential victims. So I personally, in previous roles, seen this on YouTube and live webcasts. So not just AI, but actual people pretending to be from well-known companies. Think of all the big names and using names of people from them actual companies. It's like, and then subsequently, after the scam happens, then people that they used sort of names and stuff like that, they're getting calls and emails from people that have been scammed saying, you scammed me. What happened, man? Where's my money? And coincidentally, apparently, someone that had been scammed even turned up at someone's office looking for them. They'd managed to track down the headquarters and turned up. Now, that is scary if that did happen. Okay, but from the article, they talk about the creation and the abuse of meta accounts and ads, building phishing infrastructure, and even going back to like ransomware type stuff, running call centers that are managed by different groups, obviously showing highly organized operation. I've seen this firsthand. I've seen the infrastructure is comprehensive. I've seen them using LinkedIn profiles, them using, as all the scammers do, Telegram channels. Even, which was more surprising to me, because this is a world of high finance and big business, they're actually putting profiles on Facebook, Instagram, and even TikTok. I don't know if they were doing dances or not on TikTok, but I cannot think the CEO of a huge finance company putting out things on TikTok for some reason. Okay, so this is bad, right? So they tell us that the scams often target individuals who have been previously scammed using lures about Europol and Interpol to offer refunds for stolen funds. Just totally exploiting someone that's already been exploited, that's now in a desperate situation. Honestly, they use all possible methods, disregarding that the average person they scam is very poor by Western standards, often losing a couple of $100. I've actually seen emails from people in developing countries claiming they've lost their life savings, which immediately pulls at your heart, but also having a stone cold side, they could actually be part of the scam as well, hoping that these big businesses are going to give refunds of the alleged scam money. So it's like, God, you have to look at it from all places. But so Some top tips, as always, on how to combat this, and you'll know them in your head anyway, but let's just remind you. So employ advanced detection systems to identify and respond to phishing attempts and fraudulent activities, continuously monitoring and all that stuff, normal stuff, right? But a big one for your companies is regular training. Educate them, talk to them about these scams, maybe even put up on your company's website that these scams are happening. So hopefully when the people that are part of the, like going to get scammed, do some level of due diligence, believe me, most don't, they'll actually see on your website that it says, look, be aware of these scams. I'm BlackRock. We do $100 million deals minimum. If they're looking 200 rubles off you, it's fake, right? Look, if it looks fake, it is fake, right? Look at incident response plans. Look at identifying this. Look at your comms team. Push comms out internally and externally. But you know what? In previous roles, what's really helped for us is brand protection services. One that we used previously was Bolster, and they proactively search the internet for fraudulent content. Using AI and machine learning and website crawling and all that good stuff to take down URLs, websites, apps in app stores. And you know, there's not just an app store for Apple and then one for Android. Look up APKs, and there's replicated app stores all over the internet that people generally, I think, with jailbroke phones, just go and pick up apps. Well, these apps could be absolutely infested with malware. So anyway, so proactive monitoring, so brand protection companies, they'll literally continuously monitor the internet for fraudulent content and identify potential threats. So what I'm thinking here is don't be the low-hanging fruit. Actually proactively go after this stuff. Go after the social media. Go after the URLs. You can even, if they're using your copyright information, take down some Telegram and take down some WhatsApp. WhatsApp's really hard to take down, by the way. So you can then work with the companies and get that all sped up and automate it. But anyway, right? So another real world example, which was more mature, was the South Korean fraud network. So South Korean law enforcement authorities recently took down a large scale fraud network that had defrauded nearly $6.3 million from victims with fake online trading platforms. I'm sure this runs into billions, but they're actually standing up online trading platforms. And I, in the past, have had to get these taken down from the Apple ecosystem and what they name the apps like, and the development of the apps and what the app's all about. And then you go into the app and it says it's for a maths tool for doing math stuff. And then you go into it and it actually is just a ridiculous infrastructure. So this was run over a year and they managed to bring it down. And of course, worthy of note how they brought it down. So apparently the perpetrators made several operational security, OPSEC to them in the know, all you geeks, errors such as leaking screenshots and failing to secure their software development process. That's so funny, right? They caught the bad guys because they didn't use DevSecOps. Anyway, it led to the seizure of 20 servers, arrested 32 individuals involved in the scheme, and these findings were all shared at Black Hat Europe. Why Black Hat Europe? Anyway, Black Hat America is better than the one in Europe, but it's only because it runs into DEF CON and everybody wants to be at DEF CON. Okay, so to me, while these types of attacks are not entirely new, they're becoming increasingly sophisticated, particularly in developing countries. And it is in developing countries where individuals may be more susceptible to such scams. And then this big rise in complex fraud networks, literally pushing people through Telegram and social media and phone calls to actual live video running where they can interact with people. And then things up on YouTube saying, I'm this company. But it's imperative we look into this. It's imperative to be proactive. It's imperative to not be the low-hanging fruit, pull it down as fast as they can, and then they move on to someone else. Although that's kind of rubbish to say, isn't it? Do we push it on to someone else? Anyway, back to the man I do all the scams with, and I'm sure we'd never get caught. Dr. Doug on the island. Take me scamming with you. Peace out.
Yay. That's how we can buy our own private islanders with all our scams.
It'd be so easy to scam, but you'd literally have to be in a place that like couldn't pull us back to America or the UK. So
Venezuela.
Russia, North Korea, Iran.
That's true.
All them fun places. That
Moscow's nice. I mean, if you got a lot of money, you live in a fancy building, you drive your Bugatti around and, hang out.
Do you think Moscow would have me?
Oh, they'll take anybody. They just took Assad, right?
Right.
I mean, you're like, yes, welcome aboard. Come on in. And like, oh, you're only a genocider? No problem. We have a whole building of them over here. It's we call it the genocide district.
Bring enough cash and you can come. All is forgiven.
Pretty much. If you got enough cash, you can do just about anything. I think to be a scammer, though, you just have to be absolutely ruthless. You can't. Yeah, I mean, ruthless is, and I don't think I'm pretty ruthless, but I don't think I'm that ruthless. When you're like talking to some old lady and going, yeah, just transfer everything. Yeah, I couldn't do that. Yeah. I mean, I'm not ruthless enough. But thank you, Aaron. Okay, I can't resist the drones. I mean, this has been one of these silly stories. It's been up going crazy all week. I mean, people keep calling and asking me if I know what it is, and I'm like, I don't know. My friend said he saw a mysterious glow in an alley last night off Amsterdam Avenue, and it might have been an alien drone. But he'd also had a couple of drinks. But I mean, if you've avoided the news all week, everyone in New Jersey in particular has been up in arms worrying about mysterious lights in the sky. Now, look, people have been seeing weird things in New Jersey ever since Stag realized that those old berries in the cave had started to smell funny and then ate them anyway. And, and there was that sushi that had been left over for a couple of weeks in the fridge. But apparently these are real. I mean, so it's not just some hallucination, born of Robitussin and moonshine. I mean, the first sightings of these were near the U.S. Army's Picatinny Arsenal in Morris County, New Jersey. And then they spread across Jersey like a brand new Bon Jovi album. I mean, flight restrictions got issued then by the FAA on Friday to limit drones over the Arsenal and also over Trump National Golf Club. Two very diverse things. But runways have been closed at the Stewart International Airport in Poughkeepsie, New York, which is nowhere near New Jersey for sure, which starts to make it feel a little bit like hysteria. I mean, some part of it to me it's probably Amazon testing their new drone delivery service. I don't know what it is, and it could be some Air Force thing. Hard to say what it is exactly, but even Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio closed their airspace over the weekend. So far, every single federal agency, the FBI, the DHS, the FAA, the DOD, and just randomly put letters up, all those things, probably the TSA is even looking into it. But all those, and who knows who else, are investigating these strange sightings. But so far, no word on what it is. And various pundits and so forth have started more conspiracy stuff saying, Biden knows what it is. He does. Joe doesn't know what it is. He's in the White House going, what? I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm like, he doesn't just automatically know what everything is. And maybe it's a bunch of kids. Maybe it's the Air Force. Maybe it's a military op so secret that even, the military doesn't know about it. DARPA, who knows? Could be a bunch of rednecks, just out in their pickup trucks flying drones around New Jersey. But so far, nobody knows what it is. But I did want to tell you this. Don't shoot them. Okay? Bad idea. I mean, it could be the Vogon fleet, so that would make it a very bad idea. But it also could just be some Yahoo flying a drone. And if you miss, well, physics is a thing, right? And you shoot bullets up in the air, guess what happens to them? They arc over in a nice physics curve, and then they come back down to Earth, possibly at terminal velocity, and hit some kid in the head 5 blocks away. So don't shoot into the sky, all right? If you want to go to those net things or something, okay, but don't be shooting weapons into the sky. It's just not a good idea. Don't do that. Now, of course, this means, that Conspiracy Central is buzzing. Agent Mulder has opened his eyes in the tomb and believes his sister may be on board one of those drones. And Agent Scully feels one of them may have got her pregnant. It's hard to say, but don't start firing in the air, please. And hopefully pretty soon somebody's going to reveal what this is or not. it'll just go away, and the Air Force will go, we have no idea what it was. Because look, they have classified projects and classified experiments, and they don't necessarily tell you what they are ever. And it could just be Amazon testing their new drone delivery system to bring pizzas to your house, and they just don't want you to know about it yet because, competition. It could be a flash mob. Maybe all the drones will eventually line up in the sky and start playing Born to Run, or maybe it really is the Vogon fleet, and the poetry reading starts in 3 days. I mean, don't panic and always have a towel. Yeah. I will next be live at the Millennium Alliance event in Dallas, Texas on the 28th and 29th of January. I hope I see you there. It's free, come on by. You do have to register though, but that's the news. Thanks, Aaron. And I will see you next time on the Security Weekly News.